Hi class, my name is Brianna Harvey and today we're going to talk about chapter 7, which is all about marketing, advertising, and IMC planning. We're going to kick it off with the importance of marketing planning. So essentially, planning provides guidance to a company's employees and partners about the company's goals and directions. Without a marketing plan, you plan to fail. Marketing plans inform the strategy and the tactics that are going to be utilized by employees to achieve profitability. And without a plan in place, a lot of companies would be bankrupt and would not be able to achieve any of the objectives and goals set aside. There are actually a few different types of marketing plans, and we'll discuss them a little bit more in this presentation. The first is the top-down model. This is a very traditional model. The second is the bottom-up model, and the third is the IMC model. We're going to start with the top-down model, and like I said, this is a very traditional model. A lot of us have likely seen this in our career. Starting at the top, we have situation analysis, and this is all about understanding the factual history of your company. In this phase, you're going to want to understand what decisions were made and how those decisions resulted in your company being in the position it's in today. Once you have that information, you can move down to marketing objectives, which is all about understanding the competitive landscape, having knowledge about the industry you're competing in, and also having an understanding of how much money you can reasonably invest in marketing. Once you have the numbers and once you have a feel for the landscape, you're going to move down to marketing strategy. The marketing strategy is going to inform how you achieve the marketing objectives. It's going to take into consideration the brand voice, how you want to communicate said products or services, and what different channels you can leverage. When we move down to marketing tactics, it's all about execution. This is all about executing the strategy and meeting those KPIs to achieve the marketing objectives. The bottom-up model looks a little bit different and is commonly used by smaller companies. These companies start with the marketing results. Through trial and error, they learn what works and what doesn't work for the company, and from there, they use what works to inform the strategy. The strategy phase is very similar to that of the other model we discussed. But the big difference is that smaller companies who utilize the bottom-up model tend to put all their eggs in one basket. This may not seem like a smart strategy, but it actually is when budgets are limited and also efforts and manpower are limited as well. In a lot of smaller businesses, everyone is a coach and a team player, so it's pretty common to have someone executing and also strategizing. Once they have the marketing strategy, they then define the marketing tactics. And this looks very similar to the other model where it's all about execution. They found what works, they figured out how they're going to get what works and amplify it, and then they're going to go ahead and execute that across all the different channels. So the third model is IMC, but in order to understand IMC, we need to talk first about the importance of relationship marketing. The key to building brand equity in the 21st century is to develop those interdependent, mutually satisfying relationships with your customers. And this has been a big shift recently. It used to be all about transactional marketing, and I came across an article by Forbes that mentioned that data analytics and sales support used to be the forefront of marketing and transactional marketing. But now, as we've seen a shift to relationship marketing now needs to put a greater emphasis on the connection a brand creates with their customers. And they also need to create that connection with other stakeholders because now customers are paying attention to all of the conversations that the brand is having, and they're making their decisions based on the bigger picture. So that is how relationship marketing has kind of taken over and why it's so important for brands to cultivate that relationship early on with customers. Ultimately, we want our customers to be happy and satisfied with their product or service. However, at the root cause of relationship marketing is money. And the reason money is so important and the reason it drives relationship marketing is because the cost of losing customers is high, and so is the cost of acquiring new customers. But in comparison, the cost of repeat customers is invaluable. Repeat customers are driving the revenue for most businesses. And I think a great example of this is when you think of airlines or hotels. A lot of people stick to one airline or stick to one hotel, and they're very loyal to that airline or hotel to the point where, even if a flight time is maybe not the best option, or even if that hotel is maybe a little bit further from the destination, they're going to go with that because they are so loyal and they're buying into that loyalty program, and they're repeat customers. They're getting benefits from that at that point, and they've always had a reliably good experience. So for a lot of people, being a repeat customer just makes sense. And it also makes sense for customers, for companies to retain these people because they are ultimately going to keep spending the money. Now, the cost of losing customers is so high, not just because of the dollar tag, the revenue loss of losing them, but it's also high because there are a lot of hidden and sneaky expenses that kind of pop up. And these are expenses that you're not necessarily going to pick up on in the short term, but they will impact your business in the long term, especially if you lose the right amount of customers. Now, some of these hidden costs are marketing acquisition costs. You already brought these people into the fold. They're a new customer, say, for example, and they had a bad experience, and just as quickly as they were a new customer, they're no longer a customer. So you're losing that marketing money, that investment, the ROI immediately goes down. But there's also the reputational damage. These people are dissatisfied with your product or service. They're likely going to go to social media, go to their friends and family, and they're going to vent and talk about their frustrations. This can bring down your reputation, and this also means that you're not getting a referral from this customer. Whereas when you have a customer who's very happy, they're going to rave about it on social media, they're going to rave about it to their friends and family, and they're going to directly influence others to use your service or use your product because they've had such a great experience and they want others to have that experience as well. Now, the cost of acquiring new customers is expensive for totally different reasons. And it's all related to the investment that you're putting into your marketing. And though you have a strategy planned, sometimes it truly is a gamble. You know that this sort of marketing channel tends to produce whatever ROI it produces, but there's always the gamble that that campaign, the copy, the visuals didn't necessarily resonate with your audience, and so you didn't see that ROI that you expected. There are just so many different variables that you can't always control for, and so it can be a little bit of a gamble. And the only way to reach these people is to spend money and invest those marketing dollars. So it's very, very expensive and time consuming just to get those few customers out of the whole database to come into the fold and ultimately spend some money on your product or service. Now that we've touched on relationships, we can dive right into IMC, or integrated marketing communications. And this is essentially the process of building and reinforcing mutually profitable relationships with stakeholders and the general public by developing and coordinating a strategic communications program that enables them to have a constructive encounter with the company or brand. And this usually happens through a variety of different medias, channels, and touch points. One thing about IMC is that it prioritizes more of an outside-in approach instead of an inside-out approach. And through this outside-in approach, the goal is to make customers feel more like they are in a partnership with a company rather than they are simply a buyer and the company a seller. We have the advertising plan mentioned in this chapter too, and it's very similar to the marketing plan. It's actually an outgrowth of the marketing plan, and it's prepared pretty much in the same way. So what the advertising team will do is take the marketing plan, review it, see what they can gather from it for advertising that will apply, and make those tweaks for things that don't apply, and then they're going to go in the same direction as the marketing plan with the advertising objectives, the advertising strategy, and then advertising tactics. So now that we have an understanding of how the advertising plan is very similar to the marketing plan and goes through the same hoops and hurdles, we can now talk about the advertising pyramid, which is an advertiser's guide to setting the advertising objective, which informs the advertising strategy and then dictates the advertising tactics. So at the bottom here, we have awareness. Out of the whole group of people that we are going to be advertising to, a percentage of that is going to have the brand awareness and feel aware of the product and the company. A smaller percentage of that will comprehend the benefits of the service or the product. And an even smaller percent of that will feel conviction and have that desire to purchase the product or the service. But only an even smaller percentage will actually take action to purchase the product or service from the company. Thank you for tuning into my presentation. I hope it was insightful on the different kinds of marketing planning, advertising planning, and relationship-based marketing. My 3 questions for you are: 1, what company are you loyal to and why? 2, think of an advertisement that led you to take action. What was it and what about it resonated with you? 3, what method of marketing planning would you use at your company?